Welcome to The Favorites, the podcast presented by Bet365. We are part of the Volume Podcast Network. I am Chad Millman of the Action Network. I am live from my Tommy John home studio, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, my companion, my compadre, my BFF professional bettor, Simon Hunter. Hello, Simon.
Hello, Chad. How we doing, brother?
Listen, I'm a professional.
You are?
I have not spoken since I fell asleep watching the Bulls get blown out by the New Orleans Pelicans last night. So I'm ready to roll. I hope it's not too painful for our listeners. Today is our NFL Week 8 Best Bets episode where Simon and I narrow down our five picks in the favorites $100,000 pro football pick'em contest presented by Bet365. Sign up now at favorites.actionnetwork.com. We will also get into the foxhole, give our Tommy John big balls bet of the week, discuss Simon's biggest bets, our boosted money line underdog parlay, the underdog round robin, and so much more. Bets are rolling in, lines are moving, decisions need to be made as our volume podcast boss, Colin Cowherd, likes to say, there's a sea of money out there. As a reminder, the Favorites podcast is presented by Bet365. And now, new Bet365 customers get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Sign up using a promo code FAVORITES, deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $200 in bonus bets. Those bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older. In present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF. In Iowa terms, conditions, restrictions apply. As always, on Thursdays during the season, we want to hear how the wise guys are responding to our Tuesday conversation. That's how influential we are. The lines move based on our conversations. The pros feel compelled to weigh in on our opinions. Simon, let's do sharp calls.
Yeah, let's run through it. I think the books and the professionals think this is going to be a bad week for the public, that the public is about to walk into it after getting fat for 2 straight weeks, Chad. So off the top, a game I love. I don't know if Chad's come around yet. The Rams. You love them, or are you still in? Yeah.
Well, I know, listen, I know the wise guys are all over it. I know
Love
you're
it.
all over it. Everyone's been talking about it. The +3, I'll probably bet it,
Yeah.
but I'm doing it because you're on it and everyone's saying I should be on it, not because I have
Everyone,
conviction.
yeah, that was my number one big call after our show, is just make sure people take the Rams, listen to the show. So I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that one. So just run through it real quick. They love the Rams, love the Browns, another game that we talked a little bit about. Love the Jags. Obviously, the Colts. I've been shocked by this Colts line movement. Have you? I mean, I am shocked that this is down now at 5 at a lot of books. So,
Well, I'm not because it was my exact decision and I tend to move the lines.
yeah, but it's just crazy. It moved off the key number of 6. So yeah, another game we'll obviously dive more into if we're gonna take that in our contest. Miami, a side we're not really on. Professionals actually love that side. I'm on the opposite side of this one here. I like Atlanta. A lot of pros I've talked to really like the Bucks in this bounce back spot. Kind of a desperate team, I guess. Um, Another game as well that I'm a little decided on was the Bills and Seahawks. Seems like a lot of the professionals love the Bills. I guess I need to come around more that Amari Cooper is a big deal to them and that they have gotten healthier on defense. And this actually is a nice spot. I know Evan had a piece in his article about just the exact scenario of Josh Allen in these kind of spots. He's actually not too bad. So that's when I'm probably not on the right side taking the Seahawks. So I kind of see their perspective on that one. Bears, maybe I'll convince you I get the Bears in our contest. The professionals that we love the Bears in this upcoming spot. And the last two, Raiders. I don't know if I've got Chad's full confidence in this Raiders pick, but I still think at the 10.5 in the contest, it's very tempting. And obviously the last one, we both like the Dallas Cowboys. We've both seen them come down now from 6.5, 5.5, 4.5. Now they're down to 4 at most books. So that lines are exactly what I thought it was going to do. I think it should be 3.5. It seems like that's exactly where it's heading. for that Sunday night matchup. So, yeah, right now we're on the right side of a lot of games that we really like, and then a couple sides that, maybe I need to get a little more bullied to the other side because I don't know. It's hard for me to really want to back, especially Miami at -3.5. So, yeah, interesting perspective this week from a lot of the professionals.
So betting against the public after a bad game, that's 61% since 2005. There are a couple scenarios in the games that we're going to talk about that will cover that. But you mentioned the public getting fat. Week 7, 10-4 against the spread. Week 6, 10-3-1 against the spread. That is a bounce back after the public had started in the first 5 weeks with its worst start against the spread, meaning public is 51% or more of the bets on one side. It had been the worst start for those games in our history of tracking these games. The last 2 weeks, 27-1. So huge bounce back. Someone is due for a regression right now. Either the public is still catching up to get to even, or it is time for the public to get slaughtered. We have learned a lot this week trying to unpack our challenges specifically for the contest. We've been leaning heavy into these ugly dogs, these trend picks that tend to go against the public. We may still do that. At least now we know it's a weakness, right? So if we do it and we get caught, it's not our fault. It's really just the numbers, not the ball not bouncing our way. Arizona +3.5 at Miami. I've heard the same rumblings. The wise guys loving Miami.
Yeah.
They're loving the return of Tua. They like the Cards. They like betting against the Cards traveling in this short week. For me, ultimately, this wasn't going to make it. Like, I bet the Cards at 3.5. I bet it because of the number. It wasn't because of anything else. I just wanted the hook with Kyler, who, by the way, as a road dog, second best against the spread mark in that spot since 2003, according to Evan. Like, we're never going to get all the trends and matchups to line up. But in this one, it doesn't feel like we really have anything other than the number.
Yeah, and I'll probably end up on Miami just because I know these guys who are taking Miami here are pretty sharp, and they have their reasons. And I think at 3.5, Arizona totally get it, but at 3, I'll go with the Miami. And they're just how much worse can it get for this team? Like, this feels like this is it for them in their season. That's why it feels a little bit like Tua's rushing back here, and that they know that if they don't win this one, it's basically over, right? I mean, that'd be too big of a hole for them to get out of. So you're right. I'm happy we're actually avoiding this game.
I'm not upset avoiding Atlanta -2.5. It's a divisional game with a road fave, not a spot we would historically love. But again, this season, home dogs, 3-9-1, 38%
right
past 2 seasons.
Home divisional dogs.
No Godwin, no Mike Evans. Kirk off of a loss. 40-26, 5th best of 280 quarterbacks since 2003. And unless you think we can't back a road public fave starting in the 23 season until this past week, road public favorites 62% against the spread. Something is going on the past 2 years that we're going to have to decide. Is it a trend? Is it a lack of parity? Like, what is happening here that we're going to have to unpack? I know wise guys like the Bucs. I would be with you. I still like the Falcons.
Yeah, I still like the Falcons, but there's another road team that we talked about, the Bears. I'd much rather take, where it's like,
yes,
that game I could see going a certain way. Where this game, we always talk about this, the NFC South. Sometimes you really never know, right? Like, this game could easily just be Tampa runs it down Atlanta's throat, and they never get it going Atlanta, right? And that's the fear here. That to me is what I'm looking at, where it's like there is a path for the Bucs. Where on that other game, I don't know how the Bears don't cover it. And I can easily see the Bears going up, right? I can see that once Daniels is officially out, I talked about, I think that get up 3.5. So think we'll get good line value on that game. Where this game, I'd be shocked at this point because there's so much professional money coming in on this Buck side that this number ever gets up to 3.5.
All right. This next game, Tennessee at Detroit. It got down to 10.5. I bet it at 10.5. It's back at 11. You said you had this power rated closer to 14.
Yeah.
Since we spoke, the Titans have basically admitted they're done.
Yep.
They've traded their best wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. They traded one of their starting linebackers. Neither of those moves will help them hold a first half lead, which they've blown 3 times this year. They are still tied with Baltimore for giving up the most second half points this year. Jared Goff, 30-10 against the spread indoors the past 4 seasons. The Lions, 70% against the spread the past 4 seasons. Best stretch since 1980. Like,
incredible.
We've put so much emphasis on historical trends and not enough on player coach matchup. I wanted this to be our big balls. You have overruled me because last week I got to choose the Browns and it did not go well for us. And by the way, I would have taken the Browns again this week. But in our history, we have never taken
That's not true.
An 11-point favorite as our big balls. Never.
I can tell you a game I can remember off the top of my head when we used to be able to pick Thursday night games in our contest. We took the New England Patriots and Tom Brady as like I don't even know, might have been like a 13-point favorite on the road. And he had a last-second touchdown for us to cover that number. So that's a number that just pops in my head of like, that was scarring for me. I don't think we ever took a big favorite since then because it was just we needed so much luck. We're here.
Freak. You're a freak for that is your superpower.
Unfortunate power to have.
A Rain Man-like ability to remember every single win and loss and moment like that.
We talked about this though. This Lions number to me felt too short. It makes me feel good that it's coming back up because it's like I couldn't believe there was groups coming in betting this Tennessee side where it's like there's so many other dogs I'd rather invest my money in. I'm shocked that people are trying to move this line in. You're right. Now we're seeing up to 11.5 too at a lot of books. So that actually makes me feel better because I'm with you. I bet it at 10.5, bet it at 11. It's like, okay, this number should not be going down. This should be going up, and now it is. Matchup-wise, though, we love this matchup in so many different ways for Detroit. We both said the only way they lose is if they beat themselves. They just have so many different ways to beat you offensively. We know Goff is due for a letdown week. Maybe they're looking ahead to next week, right, when they're playing Green Bay, and that could be another reason they don't put it all together here. But my model likes this. I like this. Chad likes this. Feels like it's unavoidable. We're going to have this Lions in our contest, huh?
So I did do a little pre-show sneak peek at the lines in the contest. Lions were 11.5.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that because that's a dead number, honestly.
Well, it's interesting because there were other ones that
of course they're going to win this game 21-10 and we'll be like, God damn it.
And like, look, we've talked about the Jags, we've talked about the Bears, we've talked about the Colts. Like, there's a lot of lines that have moved aggressively against us since we first started talking about them, even on Sunday. So I think it's going to be challenging. 11.5 is a tough one. Like, we rarely have put that in the contest, but I'm glad we're on the same page at least. I thought like this morning when we were talking about the Lions and I was all in on it and you were hesitant, I thought it's because you just didn't like the game. So at least
I just don't think it takes balls. I'll be honest. Like this, I got no reservation taking this one. Why not? They've been good to us this year, and like we just said, this to me doesn't feel like the spot they let us down. I think it's next week that we see Detroit kind of wavering.
All right. Well, then guess what? It's time, Simon, for our big balls bet of the week presented by Tommy John. If you've got the balls, Tommy John has the support. Great games start with great underwear, and Tommy John makes the greatest. I pulled back a little bit.
Yeah.
I didn't want to.
Thank God. We still got another half the show to do.
I didn't want to blow it out.
Yeah.
All right, we're talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Look, the Jags were at 4.5, got down to 4. It's still at 4 at 365, but it's 3.5 at a lot of places. We were tempted by Green Bay, and you got a rare Sunday night sharp call saying we were on the wrong side. I don't think that has ever happened, Rain Man. You can tell me if I'm wrong,
Yeah,
but
yeah. No, it
like,
happened. I mean, guys love talking shit, so of
but
course it
no
happens.
professional has ever called you to wave you off after a
Multiple though.
Sunday
That
night.
was the more surprising part. It was a bunch of
Yeah.
guys, right? That was crazy.
So what gives here?
A lot. I think we talked about matchup wise. This isn't that bad of a matchup for the Jaguars. Same thing with that Rams matchup against the Rams. Like surprisingly good matchup for two teams that people perceive as bad and that have had struggles this season. And both those teams have suffered from just bad luck and, and a couple things didn't bounce these teams' ways. And I think the same thing goes with the Jaguars here. And I talked about Tank Bigsby. I think it's a big deal. This is a guy who can just take it up the middle and, just thump guys. He's like Marshawn Lynch type. And that's a weakness for Green Bay. Like you can run the ball on this team. And Green Bay this season has been very dependent defensively on turnovers. And I know we have a guy walking in here in Trevor Lawrence who does turn the ball over, but this year, if you go back and look, he's also had some really bad turnover luck that is regressed and should keep on regressing. So I just like this matchup for them. And Green Bay wise, I know we can get into the whole thing with the Florida Heat, them going down there, and then obviously another look ahead spot for them where they're playing Detroit next week. A lot to like about this matchup. And then there was a couple of trends I thought was interesting from Evan about it's not that big of a deal in skipping the bye week coming back from England, surprisingly. Like teams actually aren't that bad in those type of scenarios. So we talked about the line to me should have been 3.5. We're about to hit that breaking point, right? Of it flipping to being value on Green Bay. So that's going to be unfortunate if it is 3.5 in our contest, and that's what we get for always waiting to pick on Thursday. Because like I got Colts 6.5 on Tuesday in our contest, and I got the Jaguars 4.5. So we try to be honorable and wait here to put our picks in, and it looks like we're gonna miss the line value on two of these games. So I'm hoping it's still 4.5. I hope people out there listening can still get the 4 because that's what I bet. I have not touched anything Jags 3.5, but I'd still do it. It's just try to get the 4. The 4 is such a key number. I can't tell you how many times I've been saved by a push when it lands right on 4.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be at 3.5 in the contest.
I think
I've
so.
checked. I've checked. So it's going to be a tough call for us. I'm not loving the Jags at 3.5. I feel like and we talk about this all the time.
Well,
How
don't let
much
it scare you off, Chad.
well, how much does the line matter in the contest? Like it isn't that often,
Right.
but in a year in which the final point totals have been so close,
Right.
the variance, the percentage value of that half point just becomes that much bigger. So I'm not loving the idea of having the Jags at 3.5.
I wouldn't worry
when
about that because when we talked about it so far this season, I think we've had 3 games that were decided at 2.5, where the hook did matter on the 2.5, and then we've had 2 games that decided by the 6.5. So if we got the 5.5 for the 6.5, we either covered or we missed. So I talked since 2 years ago. I just don't think 3 is as important as it used to be. So I wouldn't let it totally throw me off. Like I could still see us getting the 3.5 in there. I'm just talking strictly people putting real money down here. It's like
yeah,
get the 4. Like that's long term. That's how you protect against that type of bullshit.
this is a luck game. You mentioned
Is it?
luck. Yeah, it's the biggest luck game
Love it.
of the week, favoring the Jags. For a
Love that.
reminder, we do the luck rankings generally 60% against the spread when there is a huge gap in luck.
Mm.
Nick Giffen, Sean Kerner, Billy Ward, our analytics team, put this formula together. It separates the signals from the noise and can predict regression when teams are likely to have more luck going their way and the bad luck not going their way or going against them anymore. The Packers are a great example of that. And you just mentioned it. They've been feasting on turnovers. But if you look at their underlying metrics, and you've said this all year, their overall defense isn't that good. Like amongst the worst in the league in early down success rate. So the matchup, the way the line is moving, is indicative of the underlying stats and expectations of some bad luck not going against the Jags anymore. So that's why it's their big balls.
Yeah,
Big
and this
balls.
is before the past 2 weeks. I would just tell the public this is like the definition of a trap, but they've just been stepping in a bunch of traps and they're not getting caught. So
No.
they're the ones laughing. But this is like everything I think of, and you as well. Of like you're about to step in it. You think you got a good number? Oh, they're giving you even better number now at 3.5. Usually, this is a weary sign where 90% of the bets, 90% of the money are coming on Green Bay, and it's now moved through one key number. That's a big deal.
Simon, our sponsor, Tommy John. As bad as my voice sounds right now, I'm still super comfortable because I'm wearing Tommy John's. That's not even a joke. It's a true story. It's the most comfortable underwear I've ever worn. They've changed my life. When you're truly comfortable, you can bet better. If you love Simon and I, if you love this show, you love Tommy John, get 25% off your first order right now at TommyJohn.com/favorites. Save 25% at TommyJohn.com/favorites. All right. Indy at Houston. This was my exact decision. I bet it at 6.5. You bet it
Sharp,
at six and a
sharp,
half.
sharp, sharp.
It was, yeah, totally sharp. I'm sharp. It was my exact decision at when it was at 6. It's now down to 5. There are places where it's going to 4.5. Like, I don't like it as much now, given how
I
much
know.
come down. I do still like the matchup. I know everyone is so fixated on Anthony Richardson and how bad his completion percentage is, and it is historically bad.
It's
We'll get into it.
terrible.
But Jonathan Taylor returned to practice, right?
Yep.
If we are looking back to what we talked about on Tuesday, where we have been making sort of blind bets on bad teams and the number and bad quarterbacks, regardless of the coaching skill, all that, this actually fits the framework of what we like in a big underdog. We think we're getting value on the number, but they've got their best skill player behind their most dominant unit, which is their offensive line, which is the best run blocking unit in football. And Shane Steichen, who's a really good play caller, gets his top weapon back for his best unit. So, like, I know Anthony Richardson, like, his comps are historically Josh Freeman, Derek Anderson, Jamarcus Russell. Like, that's the accuracy comp. Still like the Colts.
Yeah, and I always try not to be too hard on the kid because it's his 9th game in the pros. And, we talked coming into it, he played 17 games total in his career. And it was just, we were joking before the show about Bo Nix. The guy played, feels like 6 years in college. I think in 2018, he was SEC rookie or whatever it was of the year, freshman of the year. And it's like, Richardson didn't have that, right? He just has not had the reps. And you've seen Bo Nix, even Jane Daniels, a guy who played, I feel like 4 years in college. Like, it's a big deal. Like that kind of getting all this type of reps. So me and know the deal with Richardson here. Like we are going to be screaming his name when it's 3rd and 3 and he sails the ball over a wide open guy in the flat. Like that's the brutal part with him this season. But we always talk about the math and the numbers, and this number was too high. I still think it's too high, so I wouldn't be terrified putting the contest. But again, it'd be nice to get the 5.5 over the 4.5, but it's not that big of a deal for us, right? We're just as happy to get it in. But how do you not like this game for an upset? Like this is just a Houston team that I think the public is starting to realize a little bit that they're not that great. There are some holes to this team, and we've seen that since last year, defenses have been playing CJ differently, right? It's not been as easy as it was for the previous season for him offensively, and we talked, the loss of Nico Collins to me in this matchup is the biggest deal. This guy has destroyed this Colts team the past 2 years when he plays against them. And even in those games, they were always close with Nico Collins. Now he's gone, and we're getting Jonathan Taylor back, which I think is such a huge deal against another weakness for Houston. Like a lot of these teams we talk about, they can be run on. So I'm with you, Chad. Like how I feel about this. I love the Colts not only to cover this game, but pull the upset off and win. So I haven't wavered, but I'm like you. It's like, man, if we had 6.5 in the contest, that would look so nice. So it is tough that the pros have just bet this down.
Yeah, it's interesting. I log my bets in the app and I like to check in the morning just as like a perverse, you know, makes me feel better to see
Did you
how
get the
much
best of the
better.
number?
Yeah, did I get the best
Yeah.
of the number? And like the Colts plus 6.5 is the first bet that's listed. And I keep seeing it go down. I'm like, I feel so good about it. Even though it means nothing. Like it
Well, it means
inevitably,
people
like
should be listening to our Sunday night show, right, brother?
exactly. That's what it means. Like I see the Bears plus 1.5. I'm like, oh my God, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah,
I got the
that one
Bears
was my
plus one.
favorite this week. Getting that at a plus 1.5. And
Jesus.
it wasn't just up for a minute or two. It was up. I was betting it still 1 in the morning. So like it didn't flip until the next morning on Monday. So that was another great one.
Maybe you flipped it.
Maybe.
But one trend we have been able to count on home division faves, 45.7% against the spread since 2015. So that one, like we're bringing the trends in the right way. They're complementing, they're not driving. Baltimore at Cleveland, like I threw this in because it's a big home dog. And we don't have any metrics right now telling us to back them. But I do wonder are we going to get a dead cat bounce here? The Ravens are way overvalued, coming off of a short week. Marlon Humphrey injured, Zay Flowers injured. They'll
Hmm.
play, but the Browns getting healthier, especially in the defensive backfield. Talk about selling high. Like the one question is, did we miss the best of the number because we didn't get it at 10? But Lamar is a favorite of more than 3, has been terrible.
Yep.
So like I don't hate the Browns at 9.5. I did bet it at 9.5. I didn't bet it at 10.
Yeah, it's gonna keep moving. Like that's what's tough. Though. I bet this at 11, 11.5. That's how high it got, and now it's all the way down to a lot of books. I'm seeing 8.5 now, Chad. So, um, I like it, but this is exactly what you've talked about, brother. We're literally betting a bad team with a bad backup quarterback against arguably the best team in football right now. So,
I hate
um,
myself. I hate
yeah,
myself for
obviously I like the Browns, but you just said we're 1 in 16 in this exact spot. The bounce have not gone our way. So I think we should take the Browns. Obviously, it's a good number, and you mentioned all the injuries. The biggest one to me is we talked about why we want to fade this Ravens team as a big favorite. The back door is always going to be open. I mean, I can't get over how bad their DC is. Like their defense should not be that big of a drop off from last season. It just shows how important coaching is, right? Like it's night and day. The Ravens defense one of the best defenses in football last year, and now this year, I mean, they're giving up the most points in football, which is crazy when you have teams like Carolina Panthers out there. So yeah, it's such a big number, Chad. It's if me and you talk ourselves into betting it Sunday morning, putting our contest, people do not be shocked. But I am so sorry ahead of time because this is exactly the exact game we talked about avoiding because we've just been burned by it.
You're so right. I hate myself for not even recognizing this. I spent the first
This is what
10
we do,
hours.
though. That's what I mean. You shouldn't hate yourself. I've made a lot of money. I live a good life betting these type of games, so it's
Yeah,
like
but I've spent
it's gonna come back around.
the first 10 hours of my week on Monday identifying and pinpointing our problem because I'd like us to be thoughtful and I'd like us to improve and I would like us to just be good at this and be intellectually honest about what's going right and what's going wrong and not just
Yeah,
blindly bet the games we've always historically bet because we're supposed to do it. And then I fall into the freaking trap. Fall into a freaking trap.
yeah,
God, I hate myself. You know what I don't hate? I don't hate taking the Cincinnati Bengals. You hate it.
yeah.
I think you think I'm walking into a trap.
No, no. Honestly, this game's a coin flip to me. To me, it's two teams that whoever wins this, I'll be like, okay, they don't suck. Because right now, my perspective of this team is that I don't think either of these teams are that good. And they've been fortunate to play bad teams this season. And they beat up on bad teams, right? Both these teams have. And in my mind, obviously the Eagles are way more talented. This Bengals team, defensively, they're horrible. Like if Sirianni's true to his word and the Eagles commit to the run and they don't get down 7-0 and all of a sudden have Jalen Hurts just dropping back the rest of the game, throwing the ball 50 times, I do think they'll cover this number and keep this close, especially at 2.5. But my thing is, Chad, if this got down to 1.5, I'll take Bengals winning the contest. If this is 1.5 in contest, I'll take that because that's a good number. And this Eagles team, We talk all the time. Hurts as an underdog, especially on the road, he is just not good statistically. Like he does not win these type of games. And, you know, Eagles defense might be starting two rookies against Joe Burrow in this passing offense. Isn't that a huge bonus for this Bengals team? Like if Burrow's going to carve up anyone, this should be the type of team he'd carve up, a young, inexperienced team when he has two veteran wide receivers. So I know where you're coming from, this Bengals team. It's just my fear is this Bengals team is just a bad team. Like I get it. You beat up on the Giants, the Panthers, and, you know, great. But now you're going to play a team that we perceive to be a legit playoff team. The Eagles should step up here and beat this team. So that's just my hesitation here.
Let me see if I can convince you because I might like this game as much as I like the Bears at +1.5.
Wow.
Like I've got the better quarterback, a really good kicker who drops bombs at less than a field goal. Joe Burrow, thanks to Evan, I know that Joe Burrow is 22-6-1 when facing a team that just covered the Eagles. Overall, 63% against the spread in his career, 70% against the spread against teams that are over 500. We've seen the public come in on the Eagles, and this line has moved to 2.5. Plus, and I think this is big, we don't know the status of Dallas Goedert. He might not play because of a hamstring injury. Didn't practice yesterday. Jordan Mailata out. So that's terrible. I listened to Raybon and Stuckey on the Sunday Six Pack this morning, the Action Network podcast. Raybon made the point that Fred Johnson, Jordan Mailata's backup, allows a pressure rate of 22%. The average for left tackles, 6%. Like, and he's going to be going against Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, they'll have something to counter that, though. They're no dummies. But I agree with you. It's not ideal. But I thought the same thing last week. Why I didn't want to take the Eagles. It was like, I guess who has a way better D-line than the Cincinnati team, the Giants. And it was neutered because they could run the ball. And that's the key here. That's what I'm telling you. The key to this game is if Saquon dominates this game, the Eagles will run away with it. This Bengals defense is that bad. But on the flip side, you just said all those Joe Burrow stats are terrifying. Like Joe should beat up on this team. But the problem is, we don't know what we're getting week to week from Joe Burrow, Chad. I mean, that's what this wrist injury has been this season. Some weeks it looks like old Joe, who's throwing for 300 yards, 4 touchdowns in a game, and then you have a follow-up week where he can't complete third down passes, right? He just struggles because he has no control over the ball because he can't feel the ball. Like apparently that's the issue with the grip on the ball with his wrist. So, that's the pushback for me. But once again, Chad, if this is 1.5 on Sunday, you're feeling good about it. I'll bet that number as well. I could be bullied into taking Cincinnati here because I do think it's all about the number in this matchup. Like you're right. The kicker is a big deal in this game.
In the NBA, there's bully ball. On the favorites, there's bully bets. Buffalo at Seattle. I don't, you mentioned it. I'm fine if we pass it.
Yeah, let's pass it.
Okay. Like
I don't know what to do with it either. I just know the professionals they like the Bills and they like the Bills at -3. So if you want to take the Bills with the pros, make sure you get the 3 before it goes with 3.5.
The one thing I would say is then that to me says the professionals don't think Seattle is a very good team.
Yep.
Because the Bills are bullies. They beat up on the bad teams and then they get beat by the good teams. The good teams, the one outlier is the Jets, who probably are a good team, but they're poorly coached, bad attitude, make dumb mistakes. It was a game that the Bills
and Josh Allen just he doesn't match up well against that defense, and that historically has been the case for him the last couple of years. But we already talked about Josh Allen's in God mode. The no turnovers, 15 touchdowns. It's his best season we've seen since he's been a pro.
I'm skipping Chargers Saints. I don't think that'll ever make the contest with Chargers -7, which is a number I think you lean to. I don't have an opinion on it.
Yeah, I'm on the Chargers, but that's fine. We can keep it moving.
Because I think there's other games we know we're going to want to put in.
Right.
Chicago -2.5. So let's talk about it. Jaden Daniels did not practice on Wednesday. We both bet the Bears at 1.5, even with the injury to Jaden Daniels. I don't love we're betting against the line flip. 42% betting against the line flip since 2019. But Caleb Williams has been doing special things. Undefeated in the second half this year against the spread. Only other person is Patrick Mahomes. How bad, how bad will Washington be with Marcus Mariota? Like you pointed it out on Tuesday, how terrible he is. They've had 12 punts this season, the fewest since 1950. They've been perfect on fourth downs and nearly 50% on third downs. All of that changes without Jaden Daniels. So to me, I'm fine betting the Bears because I think we have to think about this not as a line flip, but as a new line with the Bears as less than a field goal.
Yeah, and the bookmakers are just like me, where it's 7 points of value from Jaden Daniels to Marcus Mariota. So like the line flip to me makes total sense. They need to make that flip because anyone who has a model is going to see that this is just an off line. So sure, I mean you might get caught. Maybe we're stepping in here back in this Bears team, but
Are we in the foxhole? Are we in the foxhole with the Bears?
I'd love to be in the foxhole on the Bears. That'd be really nice.
I would love to be in a foxhole with you and the Bears.
Let's go.
That would be my dream foxhole. Me, you, and the Chicago freaking Bears. We are in the foxhole. That was worth losing it.
Yeah. Just matchup wise, we've talked about it. I love the way this defense can match up against the Washington on offense. We know Washington was going to have a bunch of regression coming up, right? Their third down completion rate, it's impossible to sustain that. Being 9 for 9 on fourth downs, you just can't sustain that type of consistency for the whole season, especially with a young, inexperienced offense that they have with Jane Daniels. Now, you say, well, Mariota's coming, that should be different. I really do think Jane Daniels is that much better than Marcus Mariota. Like, that's why I'm so willing to say the line moves so much. It's just night and day.
That's not going out on a limb.
It's not, but people professionally wise think it is, where it's like they think Mariota can do a lot of the same stuff that he does, which is, being a mobile quarterback. And I think that there's more to Jaden Daniels' game right now than Marcus Mariota. So my view of this is just Bears are smart. Their coaching staff smart enough. They'll just stack the box and they'll force Mariota to pass the ball, right? The key to this game will be stopping Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler. Like, you stop the run game, force Mariota to pass, especially on 3rd and 8s. Like, that's me and Chad are going to make our money on 3rd and 8s against Mariota. Like, that's where we want to be, where he's got to pass the ball over 10 yards, and we're going to get either a stupid pass or a tip pass, get some turnovers here with this Bears secondary that's been so good this season. Offensively, Bears, I can't find the weakness in the matchup for them against this Washington team. Like, Washington this year has been lucky that they've been up in so many leads because it's easy for them to pin their ears back and just rush the passer, right? And that will not be the case here. I think the Bears will be able to keep them off balance, especially if this game's close. And the fact that it's still under 3 is the key to me. Like, I just like that number a lot at 2.5. So, yeah, people can tell, listen to this. This is one of my favorite chalker sides of the week is this Bears matchup, especially coming off the bye week.
I've been trying to figure out which chalky game, which public game we're going to put in. I'm surprised that you are like this so much more than back in Joe Burrow. It's strange to me. I mean, one of those games is not going to make it.
This
into
ain't
our
Joe
final
Burrow in
five.
2022. This is Joe Burrow in 2024.
Yeah.
The guy's the different quarterback.
What I'm saying is one of these games will not make it into our final five. And on Sunday night, it will be a fascinating conversation. Fascinating. Matt Mitchell, do not let us forget to talk about the Bengals or the Bears on Sunday night. All right. Kansas City at Las Vegas, plus 9.5, the Raiders. The games come down from 10. Look, Tuesday morning, we had 3 double-digit favorites. Now we're down to 1. The Browns have come down. The Raiders have come down. We've bet the Raiders. We bet them at plus 10. This is a massive pros Joe's split. We're doing this, Simon, in spite of the fact, even though Mahomes is only 48% against the spread as a favorite of more than 3, 9, 6, and 2 the past 2 seasons, in spite of the fact, public road faves 61% against the spread the past 2 years. And don't forget 16 and 2 since the start of week 5. In spite of the fact, home division dogs 3, 9, and 1 this year, 38% since the start of 23, only 51% since 2020. None of those are good. Road teams, 61% against the spread this season. 1-16. We are in this exact spot this season. And in spite of the fact, The Chiefs just eliminated their biggest issue, which was getting a dependable receiver. In spite of the fact Mahomes 11-7-1 against the spread against divisional opponents. Like, I know this is one of our big dog plays. I like Cleveland more than I like the Raiders.
That's fair. In my eyes, it's the exact same. It's the same as last week with the Browns and the Giants. There's no difference to me. We're just playing the numbers here in the scenario and the situation. And just like those games, I like last week, this week, I like both matchups for these big ugly dogs. I like the matchup for the Raiders, not just defensively, offensively. But I get the hesitation, Chad. We're back in a Raiders team that, you said it last week. It was historical. No team has ever turned the ball over, whatever it was, 4 times, and just had all these awful things happen. They still cover the number just because their coach kicked a random field goal. So I get where you're coming from. This Raiders team, it's not for the faint of heart. And I get why we might end up passing on this one, just because it was 10.5 in the contest, key number. Now it's down to 9.5 in contest, which is a big deal to me. Like, if we're not going to get the best of the number, especially with a dog shit team like this Raiders team, it's like, okay, I could be bullied off of it, but you being scared of Hopkins is one of the funnier things that's happened this week. You acting like, oh, I got a bad number. This number is going to go up now because Hopkins joined the team. It's like, in what world does Chad think Hopkins is moving this by even half a point?
I don't think it's moving. I don't think it's moving it by half a point. But
well, you're acting like you got a bad number at 10 as if it was going to keep going up. And it's like,
no,
it's
no,
only
no,
going to
no.
go
I
down.
bet the number at 10. I'm glad I got it at 10. I'm thinking we got a bad number at 9.5 or lower for the contest, because you say we bet this number, but betting this number has not worked for us. And betting this number for the past 2 years has been a bad number. So it's not an automatic at less than 10 for me to say, yes, this has to be in the contest. And when you think about the Browns, like, at least the Browns have a dominant defensive end. They have an all-pro cornerback in Denzel Ward. They have like an offensive line that is getting healthier. They have a better coach than the Raiders have. So those are the factors that to me are making me lean Browns more than Raiders.
No, I get it. You're a great salesman. But at the end of the day, both these teams are bad. They're both playing with what we presume to be backup quarterbacks. And it's just, there is truly, to me, no difference. It's just, I just bet the numbers. Chad's scared of it, but it's like, this is what I do. So it's like, yeah, the losses suck, but I still look at it that it's just been bad luck and bad bounces. So it's like, I try not to overreact to it too much. Yeah, if you don't want to put this Raiders one and you rather take the Browns, I like the Browns as well. So it's like, I'm not going to fight you off that one. My whole point of the best of the number is saying that 10.5 is a big deal, and that we're not getting 10.5 is the reason why I wouldn't put the Raiders in now. But would I still bet them at 9.5? Yeah, I still would take them at 9.5. It's just not as confident as I was on Tuesday.
I love when you patronize me during the show.
Well, just because sometimes you say things, I'm just like, this guy's out of his mind. This guy is out of his mind.
All right, let's get to a game that we agree with. Dallas at San Francisco. We like Dallas at +4. It was at 5.5 on Sunday. It was 4.5 when you made it, Simon Says. This is a true Joe Pro split. Cowboys off a bye. From a sort of atmosphere point of view, couldn't be worse for them right now. Not only was Jerry Jones a couple weeks ago trying to threaten Cowboys broadcasters because they were asking him hard questions. This week, he's calling out Mike McCarthy's play calling, a coach he could have fired after they were blown out at home in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But decided to keep a coach who he didn't support by signing anybody of any value in the offseason. We're still backing him because San Francisco, I don't know who they're putting on the field. So we like the Cowboys.
Yeah, and we know the numbers on Dak. Dak has struggled as a dog, but luckily Evan had some great stuff in there about McCarthy off a bye week, and same with Dak on extended rest. They've actually performed really well when they have extra time to prepare for these teams. And, we all know the stats, right? This 49ers team without, Debo and without Ayuk and without Christian McCaffrey, like we talked about it, right? They're going to struggle in the red zone. That to me will be the difference in this game. That's why this spread feels too big. That's why I think the Cowboys will keep it close because, say what you want about Dak. He gets them down there. He's, for the most part, been able to finish a lot of these drives. And a lot of their losses kind of have come because of their defense, right? Not be able to get stops. Here, I think they'll be able to get stops. Like, as banged up as they are defensively, you can't tell me the 49ers are going to be okay offensively. Like, the injuries have to catch up to them. And we've seen they have, right? They're 3-4 at this point. So it just feels like another spot that I'm going to take the dog. I'm going to take the dog to win outright. Like, I just love this spot for this Dallas team. So, once again, a number that I'm hoping we get 4.5 in contest. If it is 3.5, I don't mind it. That's what I think the number should be. I still think there's value there. So this is a classic case of, man, this team makes you scared to bet on this Cowboys team because they've been so bad this year. But we just have to trust the number and trust the spot, right, Chad?
I do. I trust this number. I trust the quarterback. I am worried about the Niners and their injuries. It's Raybon had a great stat on the show that he did this morning. Per Raybon, a third of Purdy's targets, yards, and touchdowns were with Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk. If you don't have Debo, that number goes up to 50%. So at some point, you're right. It just catches up with you. If you've got none of your weapons. And Kittle is banged up. So we'll be on the Cowboys. Cowboys will be in the contest. I think we got a really interesting list going here between the Cowboys.
I'm just glad we have a couple of favorites we like because that's been our Achilles heel this season to me. Like,
we
so
do.
it's good.
Like
we have
Bears.
some favorites we're going to force in.
We like the Bears. We like the Lions. I like Cincy, but we also like Dallas. We also like Indy. We also like Jacksonville. We like Cleveland. We like the Raiders. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. A reminder for the favorites contest. Everyone's lowest weekly score has officially been dropped. The race to $40,000 for first prize is on. Good luck to all of us. Each week, we give out a 2-team money line underdog parlay. Bet365 boosts the odds and highlights it on their site all weekend under both game pages. Remember, both games are eligible for the Bet365 early payout promo, where your money line pick gets marked as a win if that team takes a 17-point lead, even if they lose. So if you want to bet this, bet it at Bet365. The boosted parlay, no surprise if you've been listening, Dallas Cowboys, Indianapolis Colts. Go to those game pages at Bet365 to find the boosted parlay. Go to the Colts, go to the Cowboys. You'll find the boost. All right, Simon, our money line underdog round robin. I have some ideas. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm not putting the Panthers on there. I'll tell you right now. But I did put the Patriots. I put the Browns.
I like the Browns. I don't like the Patriots.
All right. I put the Colts.
Love it.
I put the Cowboys.
Love it. Jaguars.
Interesting. Okay. Jags. Raiders.
Raiders. Okay.
No.
I was gonna say for the last one, should we go with the Bucks?
Hold on. What else did I write down here? No, I had Raiders actually.
You did.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love the payout. If that and the Browns hit, that alone would cover the round robin. So I do love the payout.
All right, so let's do the Raiders.
Okay.
Raiders, Browns, Colts, Cowboys, Jags are our money line underdog round robin. Before we get to Simon's biggest bets, get excited. We're releasing a very short bonus episode of the podcast. Saturday morning, we sat down with comedian, producer, writer, gambler, popular New York sports fan, Kid Mero. It was a riot. Simon and I didn't want it to end. It's true. Be sure to check it out. We promise you'll like it. Simon, give me your biggest bets.
Sure. Cowboys, as people know, love them. Bears, People know, love it. I was the Colts, but now this number's moved so much, people. I wouldn't chase. I wouldn't chase it as much as I was. This was going to be one of my bigger ones. Now that it's down below 6, I still like it. It's just not going to be one of my biggest bets. Still love Jaguars at +4. If that number stays there going into Sunday, no doubt about it. And then the final one, of course, the Los Angeles Rams.
Wow. All right. So a lot of people be listening to this after the Thursday night game, but that's big. Scooch Roulette, you're 5-2. You have a commanding 3-game lead. Who's your Scooch Roulette?
Let's go with. Oh, man, I have so many games I love. You know what? I'm trying to just get it over with. Get to 6-2 tonight. Give me the Rams +3.
Give me the Cincinnati Bengals.
You fool. That's your Scooch Roulette pick, Chad. Come on. Oh, and before we move on to my guy, Evan, people, Sunday morning, me and Chad do a show on YouTube or in the Action app called Convince Me. Just like this show, it's free. This season, I think last week I went 3-0 on my bonus bet, so I was 4-0. I'm 14-7 on the season, so 67% for the season on my picks, all free. Guess who else is 67% for the season? Chris Raybon. So you have two guys on the same show who are giving out free winners every Sunday. Wake up, watch our fucking show, and make money. I cannot believe our numbers aren't even bigger than this show. It's just free money in Sunday morning. What are you people doing? So, yeah, we've been really hot. It's been really fun. Check us out Sunday morning. Convince Me.
All the stuff, none of the fluff. The only pregame show that focuses on the good stuff. All right, it's time to bring in our director of research, Evan Abrams. Make us feel good, buddy.
Yeah, I wanted to take over for you multiple times during the show, Chad. I feel bad, but we're gonna get there for you.
It doesn't. Let me tell you something. It doesn't hurt at all.
That's good to know.
Just hurts the listeners.
It makes us feel better, at least on this end. All right, so our Bet Labs database here at the Action Network goes back to 2003 in the NFL. So my trivia question at the moment is, who is the most profitable coach against the spread on extended rest? Good for you guys. It is Mike McCarthy, 25-18-3 with the Packers. Even better with Dallas, 13-5 against the spread with Dallas. When he's an underdog on extended rest, 14-6-1. So I can understand why you guys are interested in that Dallas-San Francisco spot. Talking about your Bears for a second, this is just going to be plain and simple, and I think I've actually used this one on this show before. But teams off a bye versus a team not. Just plain and simple, and this number is pretty short still, is 56.1% straight up since that 2003 number. That's over 600 game sample size. If the team off the bye is above 500, 35-15 straight up, 70% since 2020. So pretty decent spot for those Bears. Now, you had mentioned the Colts, and I know that number's gotten a little out of whack in terms of the number we would bet it at, but it's worth noting Nico Collins and his importance to this Houston offense. So Texans are 5-12 straight up in games he either doesn't play or has one target or fewer. And then you look inside the numbers. In weeks 1 through 5, Nico led the NFL in receiving yards by over 100, and his first read designed target mark of 36 was tied for 6th most at that point in the NFL. So Stroud was looking to him almost all the time. Now, talk about Stroud for a half second here. Weeks 1 through 5, he was 14th in EPA per play and 15th in completion percentage over expected. Last 2 weeks, that's down to 26th in EPA per play and 24th CPOE. So just a different quarterback without his target there. Now, finally, I will go to the Cleveland Browns. Truly a bad low, sell high spot here. And obviously we are, Deshaun Watson's injury, no one wishes on anyone, but it's kind of hard to overstate how bad he was. So his passing success rate was 33.3% through 7 games. That was the 16th worst mark of any QB in the last 30 years. Of those 16 quarterbacks, his 8.4 yards gained per completion was tied for the worst with Bobby Hoying of the Eagles in 1998. That was just the level of quarterback play Cleveland was going through. And also, to no surprise, Cleveland became the 4th team since 2000 to start their first 7 games without scoring 20 points. Chad, college football and NFL, Cleveland is still the only team not to score 20 points in a game this year. So it just the offense was unreal. And then here
That
comes
is
Jameis.
mind-boggling.
Mind-boggling. UCLA was on that list before they did it like a week or so ago. Here comes Jameis Winston. And all you know about Jameis is going to chuck it downfield. Since 2022, his ADOT, average depth of target, is 11.6, second of 78 qualifying quarterbacks. Deshaun's was 7.8. That's a difference of 4 yards downfield that Jameis is going to chuck the ball. And yes, there's one note on Baltimore before I get out of here. They've won 4 straight, scoring 30 plus in each. Teams on those streaks, just 43% ATS last 20 years. It's a tough spot, but it's the right one. So Ravens by 30, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but Evan, that same trend,
Yeah.
30 plus 4 straight wins, applies to the Detroit Lions.
1-1. It'll be fine.
I like your spirit, buddy. As a reminder, the Favorites podcast is presented by Bet365. And now new Bet365 customers get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Sign up using promo code favorites, deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $200 in bonus bets. Those bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older. And present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. Simon and I will return with our next episode of The Favorites on the Action Network YouTube page Sunday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, to recap Week 8. Download us from Spotify, Apple Pods, wherever you get your pods. Rate, review, subscribe. Leave us 5 stars. Say whatever you want. Feedback is a gift. Until next time, love you.